2 weeks later. Let's head upstairs to Dan Hibbard for the call of the Fanta Bale Stayers final.
$5 Mapunga Lara, who won her heat in 42.24, and then Vodka and Ice, who was a winner of its heat in 42.48. They're moving in race number 6. First of the Group 1s. The green light turned on. The Fanta Bale, they're set to go. And they're away, and Fade to Black jump well on the inside, pushing through Texas President. Wider out was Aiden's Warrior into the first corner, and Texas President got the lead. Just in on Aiden's Warrior and Mapunga Donna. They're tightly bunched early, railing through Vodka and Ice. Right there, Magpie Hector. Fade to Black's a length away. 2 lengths Irish Millie, Mapunga Lara last. They are only covered by 6 lengths going to the back. Texas President the leader. Mapunga Donna, wide out Magpie Hector looming large. Vodka and Ice the rail as they pack right up. Then Aiden's Warrior and Fade to Black. Further back to Mapunga Lara, Irish Millie. It's still Texas President in front. Magpie Hector on the outside, looming very large. Magpie Hector up to Texas President, and he'll do it again. Magpie Hector won the Fanta Bale, beat Texas President and Vodka and Ice. Fourth home Aiden's Warrior. Next Irish Millie from Mapunga Donna. Mapunga Lara, Fade to Black run at the rear. 42 and 69 the time.
Deja vu, is it 2 weeks ago in the Group 1 Zoom Top? And New South Wales strikes again with Magpie Hector taking out the Fanta Bale. Jack Smith, that was a pretty easy watch, knowing his strengths.
Oh, I don't know about easy. He just sat 3 wide for so long. I thought something have to give, but he just kept coming. Unbelievable.
You've been on the road for many years, whether it's Feral Frankie, Palawa King, Magpie Hector. Pretty impressive to do that. What he's done not only tonight, but 2 weeks ago, dual Group 1 winner within 3 weeks.
We just got to pinch ourselves sometimes with those dogs, how lucky we've been. We don't take it for granted. And these boys have had a few dogs, and so it makes it special. Each one's different and makes it special when, you know, they've had dogs around the bush tracks and they're having a ball now, so that's the best part.
Speaking of special, Magpie Hector, where does the name come from?
He's named after a Forbes champion footballer who's having a little bit of hard time at the moment. And he gets a real thrill out of watching this dog. You know, Magpies is the football team, and Hector played for as long as I can remember, too long probably. But he's a champion bloke, and he's got a lot of good people around him at the moment, which is great.
Champion bloke, champion greyhound, trained by another champion bloke, mate. Congratulations.
Thanks, mate.
Jack Smith there, guys. Magpie Hector, how good is he?
What an absolute star. Trained to the minute again by Jack Smith. He's an absolute genius, Nath. He was actually last there, Magpie Hector, but just the momentum didn't get holded, and that was the key. And you knew that even if this dog has to travel an extra 6 or 7 metres, that wouldn't bother him as long as he didn't get his momentum holded. And see, Texas President did everything right here in front. And even with a bit of trouble behind, I was worrying he might just hold on. But just in the run, you knew when Magpie Hector landed that close mid-race, Nate, that he was going to be right in the finish.
Yeah, apart from Texas President, he's the only greyhound in that race that didn't have momentum halted. He was able just to keep rolling. And sometimes when you're not the best beginner and you're happy to stay out and you're racing in Group 1 company, they race very true underneath you. That allows you a nice, clean getaway. I know Jack Smith's been, you know, not whinging about box draws, but he's been wanting to draw closer to the fence. But both times he's drawn wide here at the Meadows, he's been able to win 2 Group 1s the same way, and that's by staying out of the congestion and the hustle and bustle early and just keep momentum going. And fantastic training effort and a fantastic couple of weeks down here in Victoria for Magpie Hector. He said last week he didn't expect the dog to reach these levels just yet. Well, guess what? 7 days later, he's come back and he's put another Group 1 on the mantle. But full credit to him. Texas President done everything that he can, 42 and 66, and he was out and rolling, which you predicted. There was a little bit of interference behind, but he's just a little bit sus at the back end of 700 against these quality greyhounds. Vodka and Ice, I thought, was a winner going halfway. He got the draw through the first corner in behind the speed. He just made a couple of wrong moves in which way he wanted to go inside and outside, and another one that had momentum hold. And Ada's Warrior did nothing wrong again, come out and just couldn't get across Texas President, and Fade to Black in the early stages, shuffled back in the back half of the field and grinded through the line. That dog's going so well with minimal luck, but nonetheless, luck's a fortune. Magpie Hector, 2 Group 1s at the Meadows in a fortnight.
And he looks $1 million there too after that tough staying run. The dream's alive too, of course, with Magpie Hector winning that Fanta Bale Stayers Group 1, that his littermate brother, Slick Splits, will be looking to win the Australian Cup here at race 10 tonight. That would just be fantastic theatre. We saw how good Slick Splits was last week. But just if some of the runners up here, Aiden's Warrior and Texas President probably drove each other mad at the wrong time too, Nath, there.
Yeah, and they got, Fade to Black was the one that was in between them as well, going into the run to the first corner. So it was able to hold Aiden's Warrior up the track, and Texas President was able to kick up and lead. Would have been interesting if Aiden's Warrior was able to get outside of Texas President and they match his motors, because we know how big of a mid-race Aiden's Warrior's got. But he's racing really well without luck the last month for trainer Jason Thompson. But full credit, you've got to take your opportunity, and Magpie Hector's done that 2 of the last 3 weeks here at the Meadows and taken 2 Group 1s back over the border.
And boys, we know with training camps, it's one thing to be a decent trainer. Of course, the biggest part about that is having decent dogs to actually apply your craft. But for Jack Smith, he has just been at the forefront for what feels like we're on the fringe of almost 10 years, going back to Jungle Juice. Feral Frankie, of course, who was one of my favourite race dogs. He was an absolute star. Palawa King, there's a few others I probably missed, Duck, but Magpie Hector's next in line.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, he just runs out a genuine 700 week in, week out, and backs up 7 days later and keeps producing.
That he does. And in terms of what's next, we heard from Ken Bailey before with My Boy Bingo saying he's going to head towards the Golden Easter Egg, and the natural transition now for Magpie Hector would be the Association Cup, you'd assume.
Yeah, you think so. He's produced some good runs over the 700 at when you only have to go back to a 41.7 win only in the early part of December. So, yeah, no, that'll be his next mission. And he most probably deserves a couple of weeks off, doesn't he, Jace? He's been to Queensland, back to Sydney, and then now down in the car. He spent the last month in the car, and that shows you how good a training effort he is with Jack Smith.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd love to go to the Galaxy, but you can't do everything with these staying events. There's so many of them on the calendar. So with that Easter Wentworth Park Carnival coming up, he'll place this dog perfectly. As you said, give him a couple of weeks off, maybe, and blow the cobwebs out in a race at Dubbo or something like that. And there's also the 715 at the Gardens coming up in May too. So that would be right on Jack Smith's front of his mind, I am sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, the 715, because it's more of a speed track, the Gardens, and he's not over-possessed with brilliant early speed. We know he's a very strong 700-metre dog that gets through his gears and stays into his work. So it's very lucrative prize money, the 715, so no doubt he'll have a throw at the stumps. I'm not sure it's the ideal track for his racing pattern, but nonetheless, he's been able to rack up 2 Group 1s in the last 3 weeks, and yeah, the world's his oyster. We talk about Fade to Black in Queensland and another star on the ranks, and now Magpie Hector's really announced himself down in Victoria in the last few weeks, to say the least.
And I think the Association Cup's been the race earmarked for the return of Without a Trace as well. So all things being equal, that's going to be a pretty good series to look forward to. But as you say, the Galaxy is approaching as well. That's going to be very interesting to see how many of these top line stays we see over there. We know it's not an easy trip to go over and do that, and particularly with probably the biggest period of time for the year for the stayers coming up to March and April, May, as to how many goes over.
He's currently the favourite on Tab Futures in the Galaxy pre-noms too. Magpie Hector at $5, Aiden's Warrior $6, Fade to Black $6, Jaywalking $6, so Balliol for $8. So it'll be interesting to see how many of those actually go there, or whether a local like Paul Stewart's Urbanity could be the one that stakes his claim as the next gun stay, or her.
I wouldn't put it past a Mapunga Lara or a Mapunga Donna to go over there as well. You know, Jeff sending them over. They've performed well through this series, and no reason why. You know, if they can nail the start and get rolling at Cunnington, well, their form, especially Mapunga Lara last week, posting 42 and 24 here from the front, well, she couldn't measure up in a race like that either.
For sure, and the Perth Cup approaching as well. Duck, did you mention there were some trials over there between races tonight?
I believe Kenya Mayhem's trialling there tonight, and I also believe Deadly Avenger is going over. I'm not sure if he's trialling tonight, and possibly Winsome Jet as well might be trialling tonight, but he's definitely going over there.
Yeah,
that's all the mail I've got.
That was probably blatant, wasn't it, Nath, when Deadly Avenger was scratched from was it a semi-final of the Australian Cup?
Yeah, it was the semi-final, and they've gone all roads back to Perth, where he's had very good success in the past. So they're obviously looking at that series, and Kenya Mayhem straight back over there and having a look too. So had no luck through the Australian Cup Carnival, but yeah, you move on, and that's a good thing with all these group races on. You soon get over what happened last week because you're planning for next week. So yeah, a couple of very interesting trials, and no doubt through the coverage on Sky Channel tonight we'll get the times and how those greyhounds have performed.
Yep, 100%. So celebrations still ongoing for Jack Smith, Magpie Hector and the whole crew there. And of course we heard the story pre-race as well about who he's named after, one of the greats of the Forbes Rugby Club, and in Jack's words, he probably played for too long. So interesting, but certainly a great story, and we look forward to the progression of Magpie Hector's career. He's really arrived in the past few months as a stayer. His initiation to racing was a slow beginner with one hell of a motor, and it was a matter of time before he stepped up in distance and did some serious damage. So we'll look forward to what's next, boys, and
yeah,
race
2.5
not too far away.
2.5 years of age too. Like,
yes, that's a good point, because normally we see stayers probably peak when they're 3. So to be as young as what he is doing, what he's doing, is super impressive.
Yeah, he should be really coming into his prime the next 6 months, and as you touched on, the next 3 months, Carnival, you know, for staying races is jam-packed. So a wonderful time for Magpie Hector to be competing in these Group 1s. He's been able to knock 2 off in the last 3 weeks here at the Broadmeadows circuit, and geez, you wouldn't think there'll be a few